Roll call. For the record, Councilman McDonald passed. Under Chairman's emergency 2/3, there is an item that will go get it that should have been on there that we need to consider putting on the agenda. This would be on item 14. It would be K of 14. It's recommending authorization to advertise for bid for the 2004 road project phase 2.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Ms. Todd Leonard, second by Ms. Tish Leonard to add this item to the agenda. Any opposition to the motion? Having none, motion passed. And this one, don't let me forget to recognize you for this one. Also, we're gonna be moving the second council meeting of the month from July the 14th to, we're gonna be doing it to July the 21st. From, originally it was in July the 14th. There you go. The July 21st meeting, we're moving it to July the 28th. Okay. Motion by Mr. Hill and Beck. Second by Ms. Fontenot. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passed. And the finance meeting of July the 14th, according to Mr. McDonald, prior to him leaving vacation, said that he didn't, if there wasn't any emergency that would come up, that he didn't see necessary to hold one for July. So that one would be council, which is on July 14th. Okay? Public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on any of the agenda items, please sign in with the secretary. Presentation. This is not, do we have any presentation tonight? No presentation. Number 6, Parish President. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, all. Just going to briefly mention 4 or 5 things. First of all, we're all aware of the untimely deaths in our community, and we want to encourage all of us in our parish to remember the Ramirez, Landry, Dale families in our prayers. I was out of town last week, so on this funeral, we took get a chance to visit the family some this week. I think one of the toughest things I've done in the last 18 months, especially with the young woman who's killed in Florida. We also, Leslie Clean, who I think we all know worked at the Parish, she had knee replacement surgery, and she'd come home hopefully tomorrow from the hospital to have a complete replacement of one of his knees. I ask you to remember him in your prayers, his family as well. The Lamar Dixon Open House at SNG is scheduled in conjunction with part of the Swamp Pop Festival. I want to apologize, and we had some little confusion on some of that, but it is going to take place next Friday, week from tomorrow, July 15th, again at 2 o'clock. But I know, realize now a lot of you are out of town yet. But we want to invite the public and the community to attend that. It's going to be started to a type of press conference, and then it's the reintroduction of the facility under the ownership or the management of FMG and the operational oversight of the parish. And so members of Congress, legislature, governor's office have all been sent invitations, as well as other public officials in the parish, and that starts with this afternoon. I spent a few minutes going around and inspecting some of the road projects that we have going on, and I'm happy to report to you that Parker Road, which we spent a lot of time on the last 2 or 3 months, is just about complete. It'll connect the driveways this afternoon, poured concrete, and the driveways to reconnect to the road. We definitely have some places along there that pretty high. Ditches, deep ditches, but the slopes are certainly better than some of the other parish roads. They're not straight down. So I actually stood in some of them this afternoon and I visited with a few of the neighbors on the road. I'm sure they're going to continue to look at that and monitor it as it's completed and you can see what we need to do. Also, Byron Henderson Road, which is just about being completed, it appears that some floor light that has been put down previously has caused some buckling already. The new asphalt, that's been marked and the contractors would have to go back out and do some work there. Talking to our public works people, it seems that in the past this material was used for repairs and so forth. And I guess chemical reactions cause some real problems. And so, even though most of that asphalt has been put down, there'll be 2 or 3 areas that have to be repaired. The buckling is occurred and try to get that floor light out of there. Bujo Road is about ready for asphalt. It's looking really good. And Canyon Road on the eastern end from Blackfire to Highway 431 is about finished as well. It's looking good. So, those are the ones I personally drove on and inspected this afternoon. We didn't really have no damage reported to us from Tropical Storm Cindy. The emergency office was going to be open all night, but then about 4 o'clock that afternoon, the National Weather Service contacted us and took Ascension Parish really out. In fact, it all was going to go east of us as it did, basically. It appears that Hurricane Dennis, which was 2 miles of the 7 still show it coming to New Orleans, the other 5 show it going to the Pensacola, Mobile area. We'll monitor that closely tomorrow evening before we close down Parish government and over the weekend. That storm is projected to hit land somewhere on the Gulf Coast 1 p.m. Sunday afternoon. So we have to continue to watch that because we're not out of the pathway yet. It's hitting Jamaica this afternoon and Cuba sometime tonight or tomorrow, and once it hits land and scrapes the Keys, we'll have to see what it does. So we're keeping an eye on that. The Emergency Operations Center is monitoring that very closely in coordination with the National Weather Service and so forth. The last thing I'll mention, part of my report, is that the organizational charts have been completed. After 18 months, we've got every person in a box somewhere in one of the 4 departments. If you'd like a copy of that, it actually shows people's names. You'll get with Suzanne, Parish Secretary, and let her know. We'll get you a copy of that. I think it'll help us all see more clearly exactly how the parish is structured. And as part of that, URS has recently completed their analysis of public works with some recommendations on how we can improve effectiveness and efficiency. Mr. Heisler was meeting with them now and examining that and reviewing that report, seeing what changes we may need to make that will improve the performance there. So I want to thank URS for doing that. That's all my report, Mr. Chairman.
Consent agenda. Motion by Mr. Thompson. Second by Mr. Fine. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Great, accepting the bids from the purchasing agent. Mr. Jones,
On June 20th, 2005, the purchasing department received bids for herbicides. After reviewing with the Department of Public Works, the purchasing department recommends accepting the lowest qualifying bid on each chemical.
motion. Second. Motion by Mr. Parish, second by Mr. Tyler. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
On June 28, 2005, the purchasing department received 1 bid for Motorola Monitor 5 pagers or equivalent and accessories for firefighters. The bid was received from MCO Technologies. The purchasing department recommends accepting this qualifying bid.
Motion accepted. Motion by Mr. James Leonard, second by Mr. Bowers. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Thank you, John. Number 9, abandoned housing. Councilman Thomas.
Yes. My district has a couple of abandoned houses, one on Highway 22, next to Harris. We've been looking at the house, it's got snakes and rats and it's causing a problem for the neighbor. And just trying to find a solution to us building and either dismantle it or put some media where we can get the property owners to dismantle. Mr. Laverne, come up here.
Ron, you want to do that? You prepared to discuss this out? Yes.
Can we send all the property owners letters on the Harris house?
Council, there's only one person that we sent a letter to in that building is the person who had paid the taxes on it. Can't remember her first name, but she was in Harris. We sent a letter to her, and we also had that all the way to the part of convenience tore down. We had a contractor hired. But then 2 days before the deadline of having the building taken down, Ms. Harris called and wanted to let us know that there was more than one heir to that property, and I guess she was considered being picked on. And she got to explaining to me that there were 2 sets of children, which had, some of those that passed away or had offspring, and those children as well had, some of them had passed away and children there. And one illegitimate person that was born in that family that also is a property owner. Probably, I want to say, maybe 25 to 30 property owners, which by our ordinance, we have to notify each and every one of those owners. And that's the problem that we have, not only with this building, but with about probably 30 buildings that we are having complaints and trying to rectify a situation where we can move in and take care of these buildings. We don't want to break the law. We've had 2 meetings with the attorneys, one with Rick Babin and another with Mr. O'Neill Parrington. We also brought it to the Strategic Planning Committee last Monday, and we got a proposal that there's parts of the ordinance that may be able to be changed or restructured to fit the needs of what, if the fact that we can't find the people who really own that we may be able to have a provision in there where it can be appointed attorney or creator to represent those people that we cannot find or give the notice to by law. And but that's going to take some doing and time and monies. If the council so wishes to do this, that we can have the attorneys, which I think Mr. Pacheco could elaborate a little bit on from a planning commission meeting, strategic planning committee meeting, that he gave us, the committee did, authorization to draft a amendment to the ordinance to address just what you're speaking of, how we can go about getting this done legally without having to take a $150 board, have to do it illegally and come back and get sued and have to do a $150,000 house back. Believe me, everybody wants them to be cleaned up, taken down, but there's some legal ramifications that we just have to go through. And if Mr. Biden has to help me out here, I'll appreciate it.
I'm always a senator, Basically, there's 2, areas of law that are concerned. One of them is your ordinance on the dangerous building section of the code, which is under Title 6 of the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances. There are some other provisions of law that are more broad in nature, and those include the United States Constitution, the state constitution, and rights of people on property. Of course, you regulate health, safety, and welfare. These properties become a health hazard, that is, noxious weeds, rodents, snakes, or just supposed danger to children or other inhabitants in the area. The legislature has given you the authority to make that condemnation. The problem you're running into, I guess, is a cost-benefit factor and a risk factor. And these are some things that, I guess, the law requires you to provide notice to all owners and give those owners an opportunity to come forth and say, first of all, a lot of building is not dangerous. It doesn't fit the criteria. And number 2, they have an opportunity or right to take care of the problem themselves without the government doing it, hiring a contractor to do it, and assessing the charge to them.
So we have to notify those owners. Problem is, that some of these properties, they're not owned by one individual. They may be owned by an absentee family, and they may be 4 generations. A lot of these properties, they may be owned by 6 heirs, but those heirs, the last thing in the court records may be in the 1940s. We can't find those 6 heirs. Those 6 heirs, we've heard that, collectively 30 children, and we don't know where they are. Your ordinance provides a mechanism for getting you out of that one. What it does is it says the parish president has the authority to appoint an attorney to represent that particular person, and we can proceed contradictory against that attorney. It's kind of like the courts do in an absentee. If somebody that's, if you're absent from the state of Louisiana and you get sued for some type of family law issue, the courts can appoint an attorney to represent your interest, and that cost is assessed to the other party. So, the law provides a mechanism for a cure. The problem, this is a couple of things that we'd like some direction from the council on cost benefit. If there's 25 heirs, we may in fact have to employ 25 different attorneys if the attorneys feel there's a conflict to represent each one of those heirs. That's going to be costly to you. The second thing is a lot of times we can notify the heirs or the owners that we know, but we don't know all who they are. The question becomes how much time, effort, and your money do you want to spend tracking down these various heirs? Here's the risk. If you tear this home down without proper notification to the landowner, you may be responsible for damages. Personally, I don't think the damage is going to be too great when a house is falling down anyway. It probably has a negative value. But of course, they may have extrinsic value, they may have things in the house that are grandpa's shotgun, or I don't know, the possible claims you can have. So the risk is probably small, but it's not my risk, the burner's risk, it's the parish's risk for doing that. So we've been trying to operate under the law as it is today, that you've addressed here, and this is about, there's really nothing wrong with it, it works, but there are these rare occasions where it's so cumbersome that, I guess I'm saying that we need some direction on how much money and effort you want us to put in to get these owners notified, or at some point in time, are you comfortable in proceeding with notifying who we can fund? That's the bottom line as far as, what it is. Now, the Vernon has met with us several times on particular properties, and all I can tell them is what the law says, and that is a procedure that we must follow. And, all I can do is say that until you would change, you would do that, make some other arrangement. I don't think the technical aspects of the statute need too much work. We may just need some policy decision making from you. If you're willing to take the risk, that's business. But that's kind of where we see it in Thompson. That's kind of the problem on some of these properties that have many unknown whereabouts owners, or even some with unknown owners. We can even go to the standpoint of how far back do we check title. Do we check title on these things all the way back to patent? In the early 1900s to verify that we've got every owner of the property? Or do we go back one? We've been generally going back to one acquisition, just looking at who owns it today. So there's always some risk. Like I said, it's really a policy decision as to how much y'all want us to do, how much risk you're willing to take. Personally, I don't think the risk is that great, but y'all want it. It's a parish.
Ricky, there's a house down Jenkins Lane that's an abandoned house, and it's pretty close to the neighbor's house, and it's all rotted and it needs to be dismantled. The neighbor, Mr. Perkins, have a problem with that house, that place catches fire. You never save his house. So how are we going to fix that problem right now? Because if that place catches fire, the 3 houses next to them plus the trailer are going to burn down. Because it's just that close.
2 options. We can try to employ the strict construction of the statute today. That is, we can try to obtain the ownership information and notify the parish president, appoint attorneys to represent the unrepresented parties or the missing parties. We set it as a regular condemnation proceeding that the Vernon brings to you, and we make that. The alternative is we notify who we could, and take the risk. I mean, if it's, although I think the damage would be the same, I don't think anybody would fault you if there's a tremendous public health hazard to take action. And I can't tell you not to follow the law. You got to give these people due process. The question becomes, do we have to spend, do we have to have 5 people spending a year running down, all these missing hairs? So I think, Mr. Thompson, we could probably, in that cases, do you know how many errors are on that particular one?
Like, actually, I did. I've talked to these people on several occasions. I sent them 2 notices to no avail, other than the diplomacy that was been using. There were 12 kids that actually were heirs to that property. 6 of them have passed away. And then the offspring, I think they come up to like 18 or 19. Some of them live in Texas. The man said, I don't even know how to get in touch with them. Some of them live in New York. Never even seen them. I don't, if it's the method that we can use for the parish president to appoint a curator or attorney to represent those people absent. And
what I would probably do in that case is let's pull the last acquisition document, the last recorded document in the clerk of court's office on the conveyance records, and notify those people, the ones that are alive and around that we can find. The others, we'll just have the parish president appoint attorneys to represent them and notice them for the condemnation proceeding.
Ricky, now, make sure I understand this. Do we have to appoint a separate and different attorneys? There were one that can't be like a class action situation. I can appoint one to represent all of the unknown.
There is no, class action is a bad example. That is a,
Well, I'm just talking about,
can you appoint them? My answer would be yes, one attorney can represent multiple parties. However, that attorney has to make a decision as to whether or not one client's interest is adverse to the other client's interest. And I can't, each attorney has to make that own decision. We represent multiple parties in the same litigation often. I can't found a reason why their interest would be that adverse unless one of them would say, I heard through the grapevine he got one tore down, the other one says I don't care. At that point in time, you may have conflict, the attorney might have to follow. So to answer your question, technically there's no problem with you appointing one to represent many. However, it could be a situation where conflict rules dictate that each have their own. I would probably start out with the cheapest, quickest, and the broadest, that being have one to represent them all and we'll deal with it at that point. I will remind you something else. Our ordinance says the parish president can appoint the attorney. Historically, I know what the law says, that's what it says. Historically, we have asked the parish president to make the appointment when we go to court with a court order and ask the court to follow our ordinance and appoint those attorneys, because that somewhat eliminates the, once it's a court order, the attorneys will generally, they're familiar with the curatorship process, which is a court order proceeding, not that familiar with our provisions, so sometimes it goes smoother. So historically, we have done it that route, but I read from you the ordinance, so that's a long answer, but yes, sir, you get one representative.
Could we make another attempt to send letters out to the members that we can get in touch with and request that they dismantle these 2 places? Because both of them are in horrible shape.
Sure.
And I'm just afraid if they have a fire around Jenkins Lane, you might wipe up that whole side next to where that house is, because it's being so poorly shaped and it's close. It's like you can jump off the roof of the old house on the neighbor's house. And it's probably been abandoned maybe 20 years.
Debated, and then also some diplomacy talking between a person who's interested in taking that building. It has historical value. Now, I think one of the owners who live next to it has been negotiating with a person there to move this house out of there. Also, at least I've had him to take most of the inside material that was stored inside, that just junk that was stored in this building, to get it out of it. That has been done. It was almost an empty shell. And thank God that nothing ever happened to it so far. But, we'd be willing to get this issue out any way we can, as long as it don't get any of us in trouble.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Chestnut?
I just want to reiterate what Mr. Warren said. We are taking this under advisement with the planning, and we, in the last meeting, we instructed them to follow up and come to us with recommendations to streamline the ordinance so that we can move faster and give us some ideas on what would be a possible budget or any adjustments that we would need to put in to move through these things to get it done. So, we're looking at that as we go into the next meeting, and hopefully we'll have some specific recommendations for you at that time. I've been, Mr. Thompson, I've been pushing it very hard at a number of buildings in my district, and Mr. Woodward, I've been out there on a number of occasions, and very similar situations, and we all look like here.
And this issue has gotten harder in the last 10 years because of some law out of the United States Supreme Court. It used to be, a lot of this stuff was handled by publication. It was perceived to be, or thought to be, that publication would be sufficient notice. As a case came out of the United States Supreme Court, only 15, 17 years now, Mennonite versus Board of Commissioners, and it said that that's not sufficient notice. That does not meet due process requirements. So it used to be easy. We published notice in the paper, everybody was the last known owner, anybody having an interest in the said property come forward. That shot out the water. Now we have to do more effort to represent those parties. So the law change has made this a bigger problem with public interest.
Mr. Hillenbeck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This may have already been looked at, but due to the fact that it is a safety hazard, perhaps we can look at going in and doing some things to repair it, make the structure a little safer, and place a lien against the property until it's all cleared up. Is that possible?
We do that now. Once we spend money on the property, we do the lien rights over the property.
Is that applicable in this situation, regarding anything we can do to repair to make it less of a hazard?
Other than we notify the person of the concern and the complaints of the whomever. Once the certified mail is delivered, it's 10 days notice for them to give us back some information of their intent. If nothing is done at that time, we'll send them a second notice with a deterioration sheet of that tells them how much the building has deteriorated to the estimate. And then the action comes before you, the council, and the council will give us that direction as to what proceed to give them, X amount of days, or say, if they in fact want to tear it down themselves, there's a bond that they should post that will guarantee that they will take it down. If they don't take it down, we use that money to tear it down. Or we employ contractors to do the work. Send them the bill, they don't pay the bill. Now, the legal provision in that would go to the extreme of saying if they don't pay the bill, you could lien it in 6 months instead of putting it on a sheriff sale, collect your money. But the key part of it is what Mr. Biden been speaking of, how to get everyone numbers, and that's the glitch, if you want to call it, that's in that particular ordinance.
Anyone else have anything? Thank you. 2004 audit, first call on Tom.
I'd like to start off first by thanking you for the opportunity to serve as a parish auditor. We certainly take it serious and always appreciate what you expect of us. Secondly, we'd like to thank the finance staff and administration for providing us the support we needed so to go through this effort. Certainly needed and helped us get the audit for very timely. We had an exit conference on June 22nd with the administration and finance staff, along with Councilman Savoy and Vice Chairman of the Finance Committee, Councilman George Valentine. We really hashed out a lot of the details that we have in the report. Spent the better part of the afternoon going through everything. And as a result, we're going to go through this in a rather quick manner. To the extent you guys would like to come back and meet with us at the committee level to hash out more details on the individual level, we're certainly available to go through with you. If you sort of move to the back of the packet, I'm going to walk through some of the financial highlights and the key areas for the parish that we have graphically shown for you. And you've got a few recommendations that we're going to walk through as well. But here, starting on page S1, basically gives you all the assets of the parish for both 04 and 03. 04 ended with total assets of just under $174 million. And as you look at the composition of that, it's really made up of three major components. One is dealing with the capital assets that the parish owns. That would be your infrastructure investment, all the buildings you own, equipment, pretty much everything you invested in property, and that was just over $100 million. And that's obviously the largest part of what you have. Secondly, if you look at the blue part, that's the cash holdings at the end of the year overall by the parish, which was just under $58 million. And the green part is basically receivables that was owed to the parish at the end of the year and were collected really roughly about a 60-day period after the end of the year. So the majority of that was moved into the cash category really soon, right after the end of the year. So it's in essence cash. Looking at cash, it really didn't change, or your cash position didn't change very drastically overall. Really, it was about the same number from 03 to 04, which is an accomplishment, as well as the receivables that you had. There was not a lot of change. If you go on to page S2, and looking at cash, although it didn't change, the components of where your cash is did change considerably. Looking at your operational funds, your special revenue, the 1 cent, your general fund, you have a pretty substantial increase in your cash holdings, which is the blue part, going from 14.1 million to 14.7, or about a $600,000 increase. And then the green part represents some of the sewer activities that you have. The majority of it is in your insurance fund, the self-insurance fund. That went up about $600,000. So operationally, cash increased by about 1.2 million. Now looking at the yellow part, you can see that the majority of your cash is in capital outlay projects. That went down about $1 million. And that's simply planned spending that you had. But positive sign is that operational funds experienced an increase in cash, which had not been the case the last couple of years. On page S3, which are the liabilities and equity of the parish, the most important thing here is that liabilities went down. That liabilities went from 3.6 million or 36 million to 34 million. And that was largely the result of bonded debt that simply came to maturity. But what's impressive, or what I would show you, is that you had a decrease of debt of $2 million while holding on to all your cash at $58 million. So you were able to retire debt but not diminish your cash position. Here on S4 is basically all of the fund balances that the parish has. This is maintained on the budgetary basis that you basically see each month, and which you're accustomed to seeing from the monthly itemization that you have. Here, total fund equity declined by about $600,000, going from just under $69 million to $68.3. And most of that was simply, as you look into the various categories, operational funds are up. Special revenue is up from 25.3 million to 26, and also the yellow component of this, the major change was your self-insurance fund going from 1.2 million to 1.9. So operationally, you experienced some nice surpluses, whereas capital outlay spending simply spent money, planned spending, and that went from 37 million to 35 million. So about $2 million decline in capital outlay. Here on S5 basically gives you the revenues and expenditures overall for the parish. Looking at 2004, you were just at $38 million in total revenue. That's down from last year, as you can see, from 03 by about $1.5 million. Really, two comments I have for you is one, your grant funding was down in 04 compared to 03, and an example of why. With some of the capital outlay spending, that some of the capital outlay in 03 was funded by grants. An example would be the Tourist Commission building. You got some money in to help construct that, so that funding is down. But more importantly, is if you look at the blue part, this would represent your sales tax collections. And for the first time in several years, the downward trend has maintained or stabilized that roughly from 03 to 04, you had comparable years in terms of resources provided, collections made of about $20 million. Coming down to the bottom part of that graph, here spending, as you can see in the last 3 years, are down considerably. That's down about $7.5 million in spending from 2003 to 2004, ending just under $38 million, right at $38 million in expenditures. The biggest increases that you saw was in the second component from the bottom, in public safety, which is about $1.5 million. That's simply the all-star property that was purchased through fire protection. And capital outlay spending is significantly down, which is the green part. That's about $6 million down from the year before. The remaining pages from S6 to S10 are some of the major funds, and I'm going to go through these a little quickly. Starting with S6 is the general fund. Looking at the first graph, revenue's up about $500,000 over last year, and that's primarily in property taxes that you collect, as well as licensing permits that were issued. On the bottom part of the graph, expenditures are down $300,000. So when you couple those two together, what happens is you remember that this fund is supported by a 1 cent sales tax, that we had a $500,000 increase in revenue, a $300,000 decrease in expenses, so roughly about $800,000 in savings or change from the year 2003 to 2004 is basically passed on from the 1 cent sales tax. We'll see that in a moment. S7 is simply just all of your sales tax collections, which we simply touched on a moment ago, that you're at about $20 million amongst all the sales tax being collected. On page S8 is the 1 cent sales tax. Here, 2003, you can see that you collected about $9 million from the 1 cent sales tax, and you expended about $10 million, resulting in about $1 million surplus. In 04, that obviously changed. Although resources were the same at $9 million, expenditures going out of this fund to support parish operations were at $7.7 million. So you have roughly about a $1.3 million surplus in this fund for the year. And really the decline in spending, you can see, comes down on the bottom of the page. The general fund and your road and bridge fund, which are two operational funds, which require less resources from this area. And you simply were able to put some money away in the bank. On S9 are your operational drainage, East Ascension drainage funds. First shows you all your revenue, that you really have a comparable source of revenue from 03 to 04, some increase in terms of property taxes. And if you look down at the bottom of the page, significant decline in total outlays, but that's simply how much money that you moved to East Ascension drainage construction fund. In 03 you made a big commitment, where in 04 you simply didn't. But operational expenses, as you can see, are fairly comparable from 03 to 04. And then finally on page S10 is the road construction and maintenance activities. And this is simply road and bridge and road construction fund. And here you can see resources were comparable overall from 03 to 04, and expenditures were down about $1.3 million in the year before. Last thing I touch on before I turn it over to Bert is on page 167. We do have one reportable finding that we did go over with all the members that were at the exit conference. And this is simply something that came to light towards the end of the audit, which was a claim that's been filed against the parish for basically some of your drainage right-of-ways. It was rather significant sum of money, and as it became visible to us, and we began to question the number of people in administration and just throughout members of the parish, we just didn't simply get a range of knowledge that we felt was appropriate. And as a result, we felt that it was something that was important to do, and we've simply come down and made some recommendations in terms of what you do in this area. This is an active claim, so I'm not going to get into a lot of detail of what's going on with this, but it's something that I think you ought to really look at in terms of our recommendations.
Thank you. The part that I'm going to touch on is just this little management letter thing here, and frankly, I'm just sort of going to speak to it. You may want to look at it, but let me just speak to you and give you an overview of it. Number one is, y'all are really blessed, the parish is blessed here in the sense that the finance department does an excellent job of its stewardship of the funds that are entrusted to the parish. The procedures, the diligence with which they carry out their procedures is certainly some of the best that we see of anywhere. Y'all are blessed with stability in the department, and that goes a long way. We, in time today, as a matter of fact, we were involved this summer with advising someone with the fact that they were being confronted with a sizable change in the personnel of their finance department, and we were cautioning them on, how difficult that is. Stability in the personnel here is very important. But your finance office does an excellent job. In the past, we have made a number of recommendations concerning efficiency. I think those have typically have been directed at a more timely year-end closing of the books so that the audit can get done. We've spoken to multi-year budgeting, and we've also spoken pretty much to electronic payment, vendor payroll. Progress has been made on all of these points that we've raised, some more than others. I will tell you, I'd like to see a little bit more progress, but for the most part, we have considered them resolved. There is, as a factual thing, finding, on page 2, we make reference to the fact that 2 funds ended the year with deficits. The law officer's court fund, a deficit of about $13,000, and the criminal court fund of about $90,000 of fund deficits. And basically, I think that the approach that's been taken on those is that court fees are going to need to be increased in order to fund those deficits. And I know that we talked about this at the exit conference, and I assume that process is underway. Additionally, we reported on the accounting for fixed assets. Over the last couple of years, 2 things have happened. Number one is that the accounting requirements for fixed assets has become more complicated. It's broader than it's ever been before, number one. Number 2 is the parish, the finance department was pretty much able to keep track of that stuff and do it on a periodic basis throughout the year. So that when the audit started, that it wasn't a whole lot of catch-up to get it updated. Well, the requirements have become such that it is very difficult for them to stay current with it, number one, and it's typically well after the audit started that we are getting that aspect of the accounting concluded. Secondly is that there is just a greater need for other departments to participate in this process, and that's primarily public works. It's just too much in terms of accounting for the property. It involves more than just the finance department. And I think that in large measure, the level of cooperation is not appreciated in terms of pulling this together. And frankly, this is one of the last things that we got done. We in finance got done, and it was a result of having to depend upon others to pull it together. Additionally, there's some computer considerations associated with this. The parish has bought some programs having to do with monitoring public works from a county point of view, and frankly, the programs have not been implemented to the degree that they should be. And I know one of the outcomes of the exit conference we had was the administration was going to follow up on these points to ensure that they are receive the proper attention by the department heads. Let's just put it like that. We also have some thoughts, or another item that we brought up in the past is the need for the finance department to monitor other public agencies, activities that boards and whatnot that y'all have basically some type of oversight responsibility for, and those kinds of agencies that fall under the general umbrella of the parish, and if something goes wrong, they're here at the microphone asking for your financial help. And They're getting financial statements on those boards and agencies. They are reviewing minutes, and that is going really well. At this point in time, we consider that to be resolved. There has been over the last year some direction and guidance issued on pushing that concept a little far, and that is with what are called quasi-governmental agencies. It's basically a sort of an outshoot of the Enron type of accounting situation that exists. And specifically, it has to do with volunteer fire departments. Y'all, they receive public monies, y'all give them public support. Now, the majority of the funds, and they have their own activities from a financial point of view. And there probably needs to be some oversight exercised by the council concerning what type of financial reporting should come back to y'all on these other activities that they are involved in. If they were significant enough, they actually should be incorporated into the parish's financial report. We do not think that that's the case. I think what we'd like to do is probably look into this a little bit more further relative to the accounting considerations associated with it. Go back to the administration and look at a recommendation to the council. The last thing that I will touch on, so to speak, is do flip the last page of the report, of this little simple sheet that we have here. And that simply recaps the fund balances that what we typically refer to as the council administrative funds. And the sum of those comes to about $61 million. And I'm looking at the middle column, excuse me. The middle column is the actual fund balances as of December 31, 04. And you can see the first major category is $315,000 to general fund. The second major category, special revenue, is $20 million. And that starts with these Ascension major grants of almost $7 million, coming on down in dollar value. The middle of the page has to do with debt funds. Fund balance is about $3.2 million. Capital projects, almost $36 million. And then the internal service funds, primarily insurance and maintenance, $1.9 million. Sort of these are your fund surpluses. And in a general sort of way, this is indicative of the amount of cash that's in these funds at the end of the year. One thing is that more than 50% of the money is involved in capital projects, $36 million out of $61 million. Although looking at the next year, some $18 million, that's the column to the right of the middle, is to be expended on capital projects, which to me is a good thing. So as we get to the end of next year, the fund balances are going to be down, the cash is going to be down, but that's going to be because you've expended a considerable amount of money on capital projects, which is obviously a need of the community. Sort of the top half of the page, the other $20 million major segment is in special revenue, but most of that is obviously restricted monies that are just not available for general use. If you look down to about the third line in that second category, sales and use tax number 1, you can see the fund balance of $4.188 million. That's really general funds that are available for purposes. And then if you come down 3 lines from the bottom, the self-insurance fund now has a fund balance of $1.3 million. So of all these monies, that's about all you've got in the way of what I would refer to as significant financial flexibility, which is not a great deal. So let me just close with a few comments. Your financial operations are really excellent. They're executed well. Financially, the parish enjoys a very good position. And finally, we're just very appreciative of the opportunity to work with the parish. It's something that we don't take for granted, and we view it with a lot of pride and pleasure to have the opportunity to have the privilege to work with the parish. We'd be glad to answer any questions. I know that members of the exit conference could also answer some questions, but we'd be glad to come back to what you want.
Jasper, I'm looking down at the road bridge fund, 2005, showing a very slim balance that I'm concerned with.
Right.
That is a big part out of the DPW department. It is down with 7,000 projected at the end of December.
Now, which one are you talking about?
Road bridge.
Road Bridge, okay.
Yeah, and I'll tell you too, Todd, that a lot of that fund is simply supported by sales and use tax. So it never really carries, for the most part, a large fund balance. It's similar to the general fund. That is given, most of its operations are funded by the 1 cent sales tax. And the 1 cent sales tax fund is sort of utilizing the savings account capacity. So as a result, it's transferred simply the minimum amount of needs. So that's one of the reasons it stays that low.
Wasn't this a fund that we were talking about earlier in the year as far as making an adjustment on? Because
Yes.
in year 2, we could be belly up on that
That's right.
type of fund.
That's right.
Thank you.
Anyone else got any questions? Just offer you to take it home. If you got any questions, get back in the call. If you feel necessary, put it on the next finance agenda and discuss it further. Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, we'd like to thank you for doing a good job, Todd, and working with us.
Thank you. Mr. Chapin?
Just real quick, you're talking about the implementation of software. Is there a problem with
Administration, in our previous meeting, the administration said that they would look into it and get back to us. Anyone else? Thank you, Bert.
Okay, thank
Number 10, pharmaceutical contract, wholesale drug contract with Parish President, King Patrick.
As you know, the cost of past prisons has been escalating through the years. And, last year, the pharmaceutical cost got over $100,000. So we're talking with, about, trying to reduce the cost of the drugs. And, when we hired the doctor over there, we did get a wholesale license, which we thought we could administer the drugs through the doctor, but come to find out you have to have a doctor on staff all the time or a pharmacist. So, Bonnie did the research and found this other wholesale company that does the individuals and can do the type of operation we have, which is all these East Baton Rouge, West Baton Rouge, and St. Paul. In here, it gives you a lot about the company and procedures of it. And estimated cost around between $30,000 and $40,000 a year, which the contract with the doctor is $36,000.
I'll pass the motion and go on to
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Thomas. Question?
You say you're going to save the parish $34,000. What is that percentage basis? What are you spending now? Say 20%? No, but 30%, as high as 45% on certain drugs. And you see, these other 4 parish prisons that are using this company, they bid it out and everything, nobody could come close to the prices. So that's why this is really all other company other than, if you're a larger prison, you have a pharmacist on the facility, which costs a lot of money also.
Probably stay over the model, we were paying maybe 10% more, still not over. Just not having to deal with
if you put it out for bid, this company's gonna bid also. So, you do it over $100,000 worth of pharmaceutical bids right now. So that's why we talked with buyers, but we got high, for the bid also. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Let me just say this, everybody. We had 4 local drugs that we've been doing it, I guess, for quite a while, doing each side of the river, and sent each of them a letter. Also gave them a copy of this diamond, and one of them proposal just to kind of look at, give us input on it, because, and when we evaluated these 4 local pharmacies, the difference in prices between the same drugs, 4 on top, is just huge difference. So, if any of them can come in and at least be competitive, I feel like you know, the better one we live in both as much as we can. I think we all do it. So you're talking about 30 to 40%, I think we have to look at that, especially in light of the cost of this and with the new committee that's been formed from the parish government, judicial branch, and law enforcement branch, look at the whole judicial system, what we can do to improve effectiveness and cut costs, is all help be part of that process, the justice concept study. So, I haven't, you sent the letters out, I guess, over a month ago, I think, to the 4 pharmacists. None of them have called us and really asked any questions.
Also, one of the savings would be, right now, we have a big closet full of excess drugs that, person comes into prison, they stay a week or whatever, we got 30 days worth of drugs, and you put them in the closet, they don't take it back. This company has a bubble pack system, and the ones that's not punched out, you can return them for credit. That's a big thing right there, big savings.
Anyone else have any questions? Anyone have any opposition to the motion? Have a vote for that. The other facilities schedule.
We don't have anything to report, please schedule.
Well, personnel committee.
Thank you, Chairman. So, we met last week and we have several recommendations. Once again, we had a large number of applicants that will volunteer their services for our parish, and we appreciate you coming in and taking the time. We had some reappointments also. The first one, recommendation for the personnel committee would be Mr. LaForce Delaney for a 5-year term to the library board.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Thomas. Any questions? Any opposition? Have that vote passed.
Second recommendation would be for the planning and zoning commission, Scott Portwright, replacing Bill Norman for his remaining term, which expires 10/16/2009. Motion, Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Tyrone, second by Mr. Fonda. Any questions? Any opposition? Have that motion passed.
We have Fire District Number 1 board. We have one to appoint, Mr. Darius Wayne Hill, will replace Mr. Dick Palmer for his remaining term, and as our recommendation.
Motion. Motion by Mr. Denton Leonard, second by Mr. Hillenbeck. Any questions? Any opposition? Have that motion passed.
Our last recommendation deals with the mental health board. We recommend Jerry C. Butler replacing Linda Smith. Motion.
Second. Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Shakedown. Any questions? Any opposition? Have none, motion passed.
Also, Chairman, we did discuss from the Human Resources Department policy manual which they have presented. We have asked Mr. Roy Katz if he would bring that back to us in a little bit different form, showing the policies that were changed, the whole policy striking through with the red situation. I think we can easily do that with Microsoft now. And the new changes or any thing that maybe had been added to that policy, so it'll be easily clear for all the councilman believe, and we'll take that up later.
Thank you. Mr. Bell. Number 13, Recreation Committee, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a very good meeting, very lengthy meeting. No business we opened concerning the need for, discuss the need for a full-time experienced grant writer for Parish along with sufficient support staff. Planning Department needed funding for different projects. We also discussed the committee members help gather the information concerning the future of the recreation in the parish so that planning may be formulated based on needs within the contingency. Also mentioned, Mr. Lambert mentioned the formation of a subcommittee to discuss the disposition of the Ascension citizens. And also we discussed the financial statement presented by the various boards, the APB, the AOISA, and the T-Ball, and all of those went real fine. Everything was well organized and was on top. Also, Mr. Tom Clay reported to the committee that there were some complaints from some parents about the season having already ended for the spring sports session. They are interested in extending the season for the baseball. I know they played 10 games, and they were just interested in wanting to see if they can try to go along. So that may be something that we may need to look into next year. And our meeting, next meeting will be the 26th of this month at 6 o'clock at DPW. We invite everyone to come out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Number 14, Presentation Committee, Ms. Watson.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Tom. I'd like to ask Dennis Babbitt to come on, he's replacing Bill Root tonight, and he will introduce the recommends of the committee.
First item A, we recommend the renewal of GSA task order contract for the remaining of calendar year 2005.
Motion by Mr. Fondo, second by Mr. Thomas. Any questions? Any opposition? Have none, motion passed.
Item B, we recommend authorization to issue a task order to GSA for bidding the construction manager of the intersection project not to exceed $25,500.
Motion by Mr. Jefferson Lambert, second by Ms. Fondo. Any questions? Any opposition? Have none, motion passed.
Item C, we recommend authorization to pay costs of the relocation of Ascension Water Company water lines along Joseph Area Road as part of the road widening project, not to exceed $6,000 to $7,000.
Motion by Mr. Jefferson Lambert, second by Mr. Thomas. Any questions?
Comment, question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President.
Do we ask Ascension Water to participate in this cost then? Yes, they are. They have their own servitude along that road. And since they have their own servitude, and part of it is in our servitude, so what they did is they came up with costs by item. I mean, they had a detailed cost estimate of those items that were within the servitude and those without, those with our share. Total cost was more like $80-something thousand now. So I had over $67,000.
Any opposition to the motion? Have none, motion passed.
Item D, recommend authorization to cancel existing contract with Deborah Morris for road widening project attorney and issue a new task order contract.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Ms. Fondo. Any questions? Any opposition? Have none, motion passed.
Item E, recommend authorization to cancel existing contract with Ascension Tile for road widening project and the tile and abstract consultant, and we want to issue a new task order contract.
Motion by Ms. Fondo, second by Ms. Thompson. Any questions? Any opposition? Have none, motion passed.
Item F, we recommend authorization to cancel existing contract with River Parish Appraisal for the road widening project and issue new task order contract.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Ms. Mr. Lemon, any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Item G, recommend authorization to advertise for bids for the 2005 road project.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Goddard, second by Mr. Todd Lemon. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Item H, we recommend authorization to add phase 3 to the 2004 road project to include the trail lane road that engineered by GSA.
Motion by Mr. Hillstead, second by Ms. Bonner. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Item I, we recommend authorization to issue a task order to GSA to provide bidding and construction management services for phase 3 of the 2004 road project.
Motion by Mr. Hillstead, second by Ms. Bonner. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Item J, regarding we recommend sending the council resolution to DOT for reduction of the speed limit. Got to apologize that the description we had in the agenda is wrong. It should read from LA 427 north to Bayou Manshap. We want to reduce the speed limit from 55 to 45. From where again? From LA 427, which is over at Old Jackson there.
All the way to Bayou Manshap.
To Bayou Manshap.
Do a resolution.
Motion by Mr. Lambert, second by Mr. Hillstead. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
And we have item K, which was added by a 2/3 vote. Where we recommend authorization to advertise for bids for the 2004 road project, phase 2.
Motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Chase. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
That concludes my report. I just want to remind everybody that the next meeting will be on the 12th, that's Tuesday, at 7 p.m. following the utility committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Number 15, strategic planning, Mr. Chase.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a special meeting with 19 agenda items that we're trying to address some different things, and most of this is just a report on what we're doing. We got a report from the assessor related to ATL. We inherited a number of interests, people expressed interest in property tax collection, and whether we're losing out on property taxes as houses are built in March and April and not collected until next year. And she informed us that all the collections begin after January 1st of the following year. So as far as state policy, we're limited on that collecting anything. So, and she graciously answered a number of questions that we had, small questions, but that was the biggest thing that she wanted to address about the property taxes. Also, Mr. Mark West gave us a talk information about sales taxes and in particular trying to level out sales tax collection from different events and things in the parish that some people pay in sales tax and some are not. So we're trying to set up some kind of policy that would restrict that. We have Mr. Jim Wills gave us a report on the emergency action plan, which is in place for liability at the Ward Dixon. We have a plan that's in place and available, and he said for anyone that was interested, including for us, and he will glad to send out a copy, and we asked him also to about send all council copies, which is online. Seaman Performance contract proposal, we sent that to finance for the review there. We voted, and Mrs. Don put on the next agenda to approve the waterway establishment of the waterway commission, and we wanted to ask the personnel committee take a look at that, the recommendation of the number of them, on that resolution. Mr. Valentine, look at it.
address open burning policy, and the administration is going to take that and come to us with proposals. We looked at possible reduction in the number of council members, and we put some more information, and that's going to be one thing that we will look into. We talked about possible waste disposal impact fee for waste coming into our parish and the landfills here, and we're going to have some proposals for the next meeting, and try to establish some revenue for waste, the impact of waste that's coming into the parish. We also sent information from the beautification committee to the finance committee so that they can get some forms to implement some of their policies that they have. We've established, the administration established an employee insurance committee, and they've reported they've been meeting to try to come up with the best insurance plan that's reliable for employees for the administration and council. We had as Dr. Manley, Councilman Thompson was just talking about, we met with a subcommittee about Ascension Civic Center, and we're looking to try to get proposals combined to enhance the center and bring new revenues to the center. And the director, Mr. Thompson, came and gave us a report and said that with the cost that the more cases we found that there is some movement there to make it viable as an entity for the parish, and we're looking to try to streamline things so people can make a fair and equitable manner. As we reported earlier, Mr. Laverne is looking into establishing policy on the area lots, which is a big problem. And our next meeting is Monday, July the 25th at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Number 16, zone review, ID 129805, rezone property located on the east side of Louisiana Highway 73, approximately 1,000 feet south of Sea Grove Road to amend the parish zoning map from medium intensity to mixed use for tract B of the Adele Landry Clean and Joseph L. Clean succession for Lafitte Apartments LLC. This is for your review only. This is council district number 8 instead of 4. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Number 17, development code table. This is for your review only. Please take this and go very carefully for the next meeting. Number 18, we have public hearing to consider an ordinance revoking a street right away approximately 960 feet of Truth Phillips HP Cemetery. That portion extending through the Oakpool Triumph Baptist Church Cemetery property. Legal, Mr. Patton.
Ordinance says to revoke the street right away for Truth Phillips HP Cemetery Road zone traffic plan designated as Oakpool Triumph Baptist Church Cemetery is shown not attached here to DLA by the Chief Church Council Government Code of Parish Ascension to begin all session. Give our road that right away designated as Truth Phillips HP Cemetery Road located in Oakpool Triumph Baptist Church Cemetery shown in the according dimension map. All will serve through the record and effects of the property hereby reserved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Valentine, second by Mr. Kyle, never go for public hearing. Any opposition? Having none, vote passes. Anyone wishing to speak on this item? Motion closed. Second. Motion by Mr. Hillen, second by Mr. Thomas, close the public hearing. Any opposition to the motion? Having the motion passes. 19, Carol, himself.
Motion.
Mr. Clerk, I just wanted to say on behalf of the Hope Triumph Baptist Church, we'd like to extend gratitude to the President as well as the Chairman of the Council and the other council members. Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Valentine. Any questions? Any opposition? Motion passed. Number 20, hearing to consider an ordinance revoking a 10-foot servitude located in River Highlands Estate, Third Island, Part 1, Lot 82 through 93. 10-foot servitude along the eastern property line of Lot 82 and the eastern and western boundary lines of the lots through 83 through 90. Through 83 through 93 for McLean and Associates, legal status.
The ordinance says to revoke 10-foot servitude along the eastern boundary line of lot 82, eastern and western boundary line of lots 83 through 93, as shown on the final plat of River Highlands Estate, Third Island, Part 1, by GLSR Senior Professional Land Surveyor, dated 2/26/03, revised 12/2024. We are then with the Parish Council, Government Board, Parish Ascension, all session, hereby reports that 15-foot servitude on the eastern boundary line of lot 82, the eastern and western boundary line of lots 83 through 93, River Highlands State, Third Island, Part 1, located in Section 30, Township 9, South, Range 40, East, Ascension Parish, Louisiana, to eliminate the servitude as necessary. All other public servitude affecting said property are hereby reserved. Motion to open public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion by Mr. Bowers, second by Mr. Fowler, to open public hearing. Is there any opposition to the vote? Having the motion passed. Anyone wishing to speak on the public hearing?
Motion to close public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Bowers, second by Mr. Thompson, to close the public hearing. Any opposition to the vote? Having the motion passed. The ordinance itself.
Move on, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Thompson.